What's good, boys? So today we got another video titled The Biggest Issue About Comparisons in Gacha That People Ignore. Now, I don't know about comparisons and issues, but let's be honest. When it comes to gacha gaming and gacha players, one thing they love to do is compare absolutely everything. To this day, people from the Genshin community think that Genshin Impact invented video games. Anytime a game comes out that has gacha, Genshin Impact invented gacha. Anytime a game comes out that has anime graphics, guess what? Genshin Impact invented anime graphics. Comparison is the seed of problems when it comes to a lot of these gacha games. So I want to see what the biggest issue about comparison is all about. Shout out to Null for this video, and let's see what he has to say.
When it comes to gacha titles nowadays, comparison is pretty much inevitable.
Yep.
Every time a new game drops, people instantly put it side by side with another competitor with similar gameplay and style. Now, a lot of people will say, stop comparing, just enjoy the game for what it is. And yeah, fair point, but in reality, comparisons happen because you feel something's missing. They see what other game nails and suddenly the other feels like it should be doing better. The problem is when comparisons turn into superiority. That's when it gets toxic. People start acting like their favorite game is the only good one, while everything else is written off as a cheap copy.
Why I know damn well this video was all about Genshin, bro. Like, I think Genshin is the only real community that does this out there. I haven't really seen many other game communities do that, and I'm not saying they don't. I'm sure there's always the little Cheeto breath, square-headed, big back weirdo out there that goes out and makes videos and does, Reddit threads talking about, yo, this game is copying my favorite gacha game. But for the most part, you really only see this with the Genshin community in the big part of the whole comparison topic.
And if you've been around the gacha space, you know how wild it gets. Some players go full crusader mode. They become the full-blown keyboard warriors, ready to die on Twitter threads, Discord rants, and even comment sections. And let's be honest, a lot of that energy comes from personal investment. Some of these people literally spend their lives saving just to pump out sales numbers and flex their game as winning. And in a way, it's valid. They just want to support their developer. It's a mutual benefit for both parties. Developer get their revenue.
Why was that hand so crusty and dusty, bro? They gotta put some cocoa butter in that hand. What's going on?
Benefit for both parties.
Bro, if you ever shake my hand and you'll shed dusty like this, I'ma slap the fuck out of you. What the hell were you touching with that dusty ass hand? What's wrong with you?
Developer get their revenue, and you got your waifu, husbandos.
That shit was nasty, Chad. I ain't even gonna lie.
Or your shiny cosmetics. And if you happen to want to make
That's a disgusting picture of Yinlin, bro. That's crazy.
a purchase in game, it's a good timing because I will introduce you to our sponsor for today's video, ldshop.
Hey, get your money, dog. Actually, LD Shop reached out to me not too long ago. Let's skip his sponsor, bro. Get your money, though. Get your money, bro.
So, is comparing games or gacha games is actually bad? Sometimes. So, we should never do it then. Not really. Because here's the thing. Every game's got flaws. No matter how polished it looks on the surface, there's always going to be a crack once you...
Absolutely, bro. Like everything in life, there's always room for improvement. And if you're one of those people that thinks that something is perfect, you really got a lot of life to live, bro. Because there is nothing perfect in this world.
Spend enough time with it. That's the reality. A lot of titles feels amazing at launch, shiny, fresh, everyone hype, but as the weeks roll on, they start feeling flat, the shines wear off, or the updates not met the trend standards. In the gacha space itself, that effects got amplified. As new titles keep dropping almost every single year, the market's overflowing and the genre itself has become so common that comparisons are just on their DNA. But sometimes those comparisons spiral out of control. What starts as, hey, this game does this thing better, turn into a toxic judgment. People throw around hot takes like they're delivering a death sentence.
I just reacted to this in another video yesterday. This exact same little post. Actually, it was crazy.
an honest discussion into a boss raid that nobody asked for. Some people often act aggressive, defending their games like their life depends on it. And sure, from their point of view, it might look fine. Just let people enjoy things, right? But in reality, that mindset is a cancer that eats the game from the inside out. It doesn't just poison the community with toxicity, it drags player into a full-blown denial phase. And here's the dangerous part. When players keep nodding along to everything that's put out, no matter the quality, the bare minimum becomes the standard. Why push boundaries when people are already clapping for scraps?
That's what we were just talking about, bro. These companies drop content, and then another game comes out, and they do something better, because like everything, there's always going to be things that are better in some scenarios than in others. And then people will compare them or point it out. Perfect example. Wuthering Waves having flight and Genshin Impact not having flight. You'd figured 5 years down the line, with such a gigantic map, they'll get flying because it's something that people have been asking, right? Wuwa comes out with flying, and people point it out and compare it. Yo, the exploration in Wuthering Waves feels amazing. You don't need stamina to do this. The way you can climb up buildings is amazing. Yo, we have flight. They compare it to Genshin. And instead of the Genshin community turning around and saying, yo, you know what? They're right. Why don't we have this type of quality of life in our traveling, in our movement, in our exploration in the game? Instead of doing that, the logical thing, to improve their game, they start attacking. Well, your game is trash. Your game is a cheap copy of Genshin, blah, 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 blah. And it just ends up killing the possibilities of the game improving, because the developers see this and say, well, yo, they spoke for us. They don't care about that flying shit. Y'all can go play Wuwa. We don't need flying over here. And then they end up not improving the game, bro.
Long run, that just doesn't stall innovation. It conditioned the devs to believe the baseline is enough. And that's how live service games rot quietly. Not from one bad patch, but from a cycle where critique dies, complacency grows, and the bar never moves higher. On the flip side, comparison isn't the enemy. In fact, if it's done right, it can be one of the best tools a community has.
If done right. I feel that in today's day and age, everybody wants to yap. Everybody feels that they have the voice of reason when it comes to their opinions. But the reality of it is that a lot of these people are keyboard warriors. They're people that sit down behind their desk, their monitors, and they yap and they argue and they try to defend these games. But in person, they wouldn't be able to hold a stable conversation with anybody. They're people that feel that their way of saying things is right, and they'll argue to the death, but they have no social skills. They have no critical thinking skills. So they don't allow for the improvements of the games, because they're just so hard-headed, so block-headed, that they're stuck in their own ways, bro.
Healthy comparison acts like a lens. It points out what's missing, highlights what's working elsewhere, and shows developer where players' expectations are shifting. The trick is keeping it neutral. Don't twist it because a game came out first, or because I dropped $500 on game B, so it has to be superior. That's not comparison, that's coping. When handled constructively, comparison turns into a battery. It charges developers up, pushes them to refine the system, and fuels the innovation. In the live service gacha environment, where long-term engagement is literally the lifeline, that kind of adaptation isn't optional, it's survival. And this is why critique, a real critique, matters. Most of the time it gets written off as negativity, but the truth is, it's the heartbeat of development. Without those feedback loops, even the uncomfortable ones, game risks going stale. People compare because they are care, and in a scene that is competitive, those comparisons are often sparks and keep a live service title evolving instead of flatlining. Take Genshin, Wuthering Waves, and Honkai Star Rail for example. There's no denying these titles are in direct competition. And comparison, that's basically breakfast for each fandom. When Genshin first dropped, there was not much to compare it to.
There was nothing you can compare Genshin Impact to. Genshin Impact, we can say anything we want to say about Genshin Impact. The reality of it is that Genshin Impact was a massive, massive step forward for gacha gaming. It pretty much brought gacha gaming to the mainstream. There's been gacha games for so long. I used to be a huge Summoner's War player. I loved Summoner's War. But it felt like gacha gaming was this obscure little corner of the gaming world, right? When Genshin came out, I had friends that had never played a gacha game. People that had never even heard of what gacha gaming was playing Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact did revolutionize gacha gaming, but that doesn't mean that because it revolutionized gacha gaming that its shit don't stink, that we can be out here calling it when it's doing something bad and pushing it to improve. And it also doesn't mean that if a new game comes out that does something better, we gotta go back and say, well, Genshin did this first. No, bro, it's competition. They're always gonna aim to improve these type of games regardless of who did it first, bro.
Because it was the standard. As long as game hit Genshin level, people were satisfied. But after Wuthering Waves release, and suddenly the conversation shift. For players, it might just feel like another round of who's better debates. But for the developer, that noise is a market signal, one that literally decides the future player base. And I think we've seen it in action, as many Genshin players shifted to Wuthering Waves, not because Wuthering Waves is perfect, but because it delivered improvements that people had been begging for in Genshin for years. Small things, but impactful. Remember when Wuthering Waves just launched and people start to compare the details between Genshin and Wuthering Waves in terms.
I ain't even gonna lie, bro. I really did like Genshin Impact when it dropped, and I still think it was a great gaming opportunity for me to hop into the game and try it out. I thought it was great. I thought it was fun. It looked good. The visuals and everything looked great. Time has passed. Time has passed. And just like you can go into Wuthering Waves and see the 1.0 region and then see 2.0 and be like, holy crap, this is a giant improvement from, you know, graphics in 1.0. I feel that with Genshin, you look at some of the graphics from characters that, you know, first released to some of the graphic styles that they have now, and then you compare it to games like Wuthering Waves, upcoming games like Duet Night Abyss, and Genshin looks like Play-Doh. I'm gonna be honest, it is their graphic style. For those that like it, that's the way it looks, but this is a serious comparison. When this company is making probably triple, if not 4 times more than Kuro Games is, not just from Genshin, but from their other games, and then you look at this designs and you compare the attention to detail from one to the other, there's a lot to be said, bro.
Of character detail.
Like, look at it, bro. The Luke looks like he's made out of Play-Doh. Let's not kid ourselves. Bro, I'm not even lying to you. If I was a Genshin Impact hardcore diehard fan, you could not show me this shit and I'll be like, yes, this looks better. This looks like a Lego character, bro. I'm gonna be honest. It's cool for its style and all that, but bro, the lack of shadowing, the lack of sharpness, the lack of detail to the hair, it's actually
like
insane.
Hair and stuff. A lot of Genshin players will say, different engine, you cannot compare. And yeah, true. But different engine doesn't mean no improvement allowed. And now, slowly but sure, Genshin is adapting. Look at Yelan's new skin. These improvements are not only good for the game standard, but it also needs to.
Yo, they gave her a skin that gave her more detail to her hair. That's actually hilarious, bro. They gave her better hair, like better detailed to the hair with the skin. I understand new hairstyle, but like the skin, the hair, the hair has shadows and glows that this one doesn't have. That's
also
wild,
needs to
bro.
keep them stays on the highly competitive
That's
market.
Crazy.
Meanwhile, Wuthering Wave had it easier because it baked in what players wanted from the start. Quality of life features that other gacha players could only dream of suddenly became the standard. Detailed character design, quest skip button, freedom in exploration, even an extra daily stamina bar. That's not coincidence, that's competition. This proved that comparison can be a positive thing and can act as a bridge for players to know what is lacking in our game, and it will translate to our consideration, and at some point we will put it in the survey box for the game improvement. And when the developers actually pay attention, the standard will rise. The low bar gets lifted and suddenly the baseline for future content is higher. That's how you keep players not just for logging in, but sticking around. At the end of the day, the gacha market is a cutthroat arena. Player can and will jump ship the second another title feels like it respects their time more.
Yo, yes, exactly. And I just want to say this before any Genshin Impact diehard fan comes into the video and starts talking shit about me, well, you're just a Kuro bot. I'm gonna tell you straight up, if another gacha game comes out that offers better things than Wuthering Waves for me, better open world, better exploration, better looking characters, better combat, better end game, I could give 3.5 shits about Kuro and Wuthering Waves. I'm gonna jump ship to the next best product because I don't have FOMO. I don't have this dependency for these games. The fear of I spent so much money and I'm gonna leave it all behind. Bro, you're weird. Life moves on. If another game comes out that does what Wuthering Wave does, but better, I'm gonna be over there playing that and I'm gonna be like, yo, this game is better than Wuthering Waves. It is what it is. And it's the same thing I'm doing for Genshin, bro. Everybody has different tastes and different styles, but when it comes to quality of life, when it comes to the content that you have in the game and how the developers listen, that's universal. That shit is universal. It doesn't just apply to your game or my game.
And that's why comparison isn't just natural, it's necessary. Because without it, you'll end up in a feedback loop of bare minimum content, the classic if you don't like it, don't play it. Defense? Yeah, that's basically an open invitation for stagnation. But still though, comparison only works if it's done in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just turns into a wasted noise, time and potential. Remember, critique fuels progress, toxicity just burns out everyone.
Yeah, bro. At the end of the day, I feel that people don't like having just solid conversations about things that could be improved. Right now, for example, I am dissatisfied with the state of endgame in Wuthering Waves. I feel that our endgame content, despite having so many teams, so many characters, so many cool synergies with our characters, we don't really have a lot of different scenarios where we can test said characters out, be it our actual endgame or events during some of our patches. So I would like to see that improved, and I'd like to have conversations. If someone thinks, yo, maybe that's wrong, maybe their endgame is perfect, we can sit down and talk about it respectfully, sharing opinions. But some of these people out there don't like hearing other people's opinions, even if they're not negative, but slightly point out defects or things that need to be improved from the games they are married to. But yeah, that's going to be the video for me, guys. Thank y'all for watching. And I just want to leave you guys with one question. And I want you guys to answer it in the comment section of this video. If Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves came out at the exact same time, who do you think would have done better? Let me know in the comment section below. For now, thank y'all for watching, and peace.